Good morning, seventh graders. It's Monday, March 30th, and I hope you had a great weekend. And I just want to lay out for you real quickly what we're doing this week. You need to read section 5 today on Monday of the Civil War. Uh, Tomorrow we have a Zoom meeting. Wednesday you have a narration that's due, and um, and if you want to find out the whole week's plans, you can go to lesson plans under Family Portal and check those out. Um, I titled today's mini lesson "Awful Arithmetic." Uh, so this is a phrase that uh, I think is popularized by Lincoln, and it's the idea that um, it's sad to think like this, but the South just couldn't keep on losing people the way the North could afford to lose people. We had lots more people to lose, and it was okay in one sense that we were had lots of people dying because the South had less people. And so the strategy becomes, well, we just have twice as many people as the South. So if each time they lose about as many people as we lose in a war battle, then eventually they'll have to give up because they can't compete with us. We can afford to lose more people. And so you'll see in today's reading that General Ulysses S. Grant, who's fighting in Virginia against the Confederates, he's not a great strategist, but what he is good at is just marching forward. He keeps going and going, and even though he loses lots of soldiers, they called him the Butcher, his men, because lots of his men died, but he just kept on going forward because he knew that the South didn't have as many men to replace their fallen soldiers. And so we'll see in the last section of the war just lots of brutal um, fatalities, a lot of casualties in these wars in the last few battles, and the South has to eventually give up. And I wanted to highlight two for you. Sherman's March to the Sea. This is in today's reading. Sherman is in charge of the Northern Army, but he's fighting in the South. So he's in charge of the southern part of the North's army, if that makes sense. And he's in charge of going all the way from Tennessee, marching down through the South. And Ulysses S. Grant gives him permission to run wild, and that's what he does. He and his men, they just burn houses, barns, tear up railroads, and are very brutal, especially to the rich people in the South, the ones that had those plantations, who had slaves. It's very, very cruel, mean, almost vindictive, and the South comes to hate Sherman and his men because of how cruel they are. They're not just fighting against soldiers, but they're just leaving a burnt path all the way from Tennessee down to the Atlantic Ocean. And so this is something that's sometimes referred to as total war in battle, where there isn't a line that, hey, these people aren't fighting, so we'll leave them alone, or this farm isn't really important, we'll leave it alone. No, everything's fair game, and you can do whatever you want as long as it leads to victory. And in tomorrow's Zoom meeting, I'd like for you to have some ideas to discuss. Maybe if you could bring some Bible verses or some ideas. How do we as Christians think about that idea of warfare? Of course, we probably don't want to fight if we can avoid it. But if we do have to go to battle, if we do have to fight, I think we probably all agree that there should be some rules. You can't just do whatever you want in battle. But we still want to win. If you're in a fight, in a battle, your goal is to win that battle. So how do you balance those two things? What are the rules to warfare? And I'd like to go over that and talk with us about that tomorrow's Zoom meeting. So if you could have some ideas for tomorrow. Also in today's video on the bottom, I'd like to link to a tour of Ford's Theater. So if you could watch that after this video, and we can talk about it tomorrow and see what you thought about Ford's Theater. All right, happy reading. I'll see you tomorrow in the Zoom meeting. Bye-bye.